Good morning. Thank you, Robert, for that introduction, and welcome everyone this morning to what we all hope will be a seminal event every year as we talk about the state of Americans, in this case, the state of Americans of Latino descent. And I say that understanding fully well how I've described a constituency of America that has become a growing force, not just in our politics, but in our social life as well here in this country. And that's because most of us, I think, recognize the opportunity, the privilege, and the honor it is to be here in this great country. But we also recognize the importance, the value, and the strength that we get from being of Latino heritage. And so as we talk about the state of Latinos in the United States of America today, I say that fully understanding the context upon which I stand here today and upon which we discuss this subject this morning. MALDEF, as many of you know, was born during a time of struggle and change in the 1960s. This will be MALDEF's 40th anniversary, so John, Trezenia, to you and all the Maldefians of the world, we say happy birthday on 40 years of success. And MALDEF happened to have been born in between two seminal events in this country that have shaped us since: the assassination of Martin Luther King and the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. And so it seems appropriate that on this 40th anniversary that we pay tribute to those two great leaders and that we recognize MALDEF's 40 years of success, that we take a look at the state of Latinos in this country today from the context in which we've grown. And so 40 years ago, my father could still tell me the story about how he would see the signs in the restaurants that said, "No dogs or Mexicans allowed." 40 years ago, my father could have told you the story of how when he was in school, because he started working at a very young age, that when he would go to school, and since he was behind and older than most of the other kids, he was placed with young men his same age in the back of the classroom to study on their own while the rest of the students were taught by the teacher. And chances are my father could have told you about the wages he earned, working very hard in more than one job, just to try to make ends meet to help the family survive. That was 40 years ago. And so it's interesting, as we look back, things have changed, but not totally. So the state of Latino America is one which we must place in context. If you look at it only in isolation, what you see today, you'll forget where we were yesterday. Fortunately, we still have a lot of folks, like my father, who can remind us of where we were yesterday. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Those were my father's words. They were the words of Martin Luther King. They apply today as they did back then. My father today can walk into most any restaurant he wishes. Yet today, hate crimes on the rise against Latinos. Predator lending, you will find, will have affected Latinos and African Americans more than any other constituency in this country. Today, in many schools, school districts throughout this country, it's still the case that half of Latinos don't graduate from high school. And I think in many respects, what you find today facing the immigrant of this country is still very similar to what they faced back 40 years ago. Again, as Martin Luther King said, we may have come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now. And so I think what we're going to find as we talk about the state of Latino America is that if we look back, life was hard. If we see today through the eyes of immigrants, of those students who don't find school is producing anything for them, of that first-time homeowning family that is now on the verge of losing their home, life is still very hard. It almost seems like very little has changed. Yet that man who got to to about the 6th grade, who couldn't walk into a restaurant when he was younger, can tell you that about 16 years ago, he had a chance to meet the President of the United States of America. We've come a long way in that we have fought to bring not just progress, but justice to Americans throughout this country. We have much to do, but we have much yet to be thankful for. My father today is as proud an American as you will find. He is as up on the news, and in fact, he's more up on the news than I'd like. And he will tell you as a proud American what we can do to make things right. As Martin Luther King said, time is always right to do what is right. And so, as we convene here today to talk about the state of life for Americans of Latino descent, I remind you of the great words of people like my father, or Martin Luther King, or that great hero who grew up as humbly as my father. Such as what he said, si se puede. Could be better. But the great and fantastic thing for us is that we have room in which to work and to make improvements. And so as we convene this morning with some very special presenters, I say to you, remember from where we came and understand where we get to go. That's how you'll understand the state of Latinos in this country today. And I hope what we will remember are the words of people like Martin Luther King, Cesar Chavez, who never forgot that tomorrow can always be a better day. Thank you very much.